actually explore further. Another interesting thing is teacher-to-teacher collaboration. And again, this is a very recent thing, less than a year old, less than 6 months actually. We have developed a blog for teachers and teacher trainers. About 300 teacher trainers have been trained, and they are now training, starting from January of this year. They are trying to train teachers, and these teachers do two things. One is that they create their own content using the internet and using PowerPoint. So the traditional way of teaching ICT literacy or imparting ICT literacy to teachers was that they would have to sit down and first they'd have to understand what Microsoft Word was and then what Excel was and so on and so forth, which made absolutely zero sense to the reality of Bangladesh rural schools. But what we've been doing in the last few months is starting to make sense. We actually sit them down in front of a computer with no computer background, with no computer literacy, and say that all you have to do is to go on Google and type in photosynthesis or environmental pollution or whatever. They type that in, and now they can actually type that in Bangla. I'll talk about Bangla use on the internet as well in a little bit. But they do a search and they actually find interesting videos on YouTube, interesting animation on different sites, and they can actually plug that into their PowerPoint. And they're doing another thing, which is they're establishing in each school something called a multimedia classroom, where there is a laptop and a projector in a classroom with the internet connection, and basically something like this. The students don't get to use the computers, but they get to learn physics, and you actually see the general science class 8. So these are the PPTX. All the PowerPoint presentations were developed by these 358 teachers and teacher trainers across the country. They're across the country. They're not urban. Mostly they're rural. And there's, again, this is a very new phenomenon that's happening, only a few months old. And this kind of collaboration is happening. Again, somebody's posting it from one part of the country, somebody's actually downloading it from another part, improving it, uploading it again. So that kind of collaboration is also happening. So it's another dimension of social networking that's happening in Bangladesh towards educational improvement. A few pictures of multimedia classrooms. So this is the setup basically in a rural school. And notice that this is not a lab, this is not a computer lab. This is an environment for teaching and learning in the classroom where the collaborative learning is happening, facilitated by the teacher using ICT. And the collaborative learning is for geography, for physics, for math, for language, for religion, and so on and so forth. It's not about ICT, it's about education. So that's the big difference. And the teachers are facilitating it by collaborating with other teachers using social networking tools. Now this is so I just want to show an example of content produced by teachers. This is in Bangla, so I apologize for the ones who cannot read Bangla yet. So basically this is a periscope, and this kind of animation, what we've seen is that as a nation, and other nations have done the same thing, we've produced content in animation that was expensive and time consuming to do. Now we're basically asking the teachers to develop this very simple animation by using PowerPoint and by also importing content from the internet. So this is basically showing how the periscope works. This is showing how the headlight of a car works. How the prism works. Again, this is all done in PowerPoint by the teachers. So the target is to actually ensure 21st century education, which is, there are a few things that would like to see happen. So general education and specialized education is something that we've all talked about for centuries. Now we talk about in the 21st century education, creative thinking, problem solving, and collaborative practices. Again, there are social networking tools that will be at play. We have not introduced the social networking tools to the students yet because of lack of connectivity in schools and because of lack of access to computers and other devices. But again, that's the next step. That's where we'd like to go in the next few years. But currently we're focusing on teachers. Wikipedia. There is Wikipedia in many languages. There is also Wikipedia in Bangladesh, in Bangla. So in the last 4 years, we've seen 19,000 contributors in Wikipedia. Most of them are not very active contributors. They probably write a few lines here and there. They write a few articles. Of the 22,000 articles, they probably have written maybe about half of them, but again, short articles. But there are a few who are very active writers, very active Wikipedians, who've actually done bulk of the heavy lifting in generating content in Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is actually being used in schools, the schools that I talked about. It's a new venture. It's being used to teach geography, to teach history, to teach science, because you can actually get very good content, very up-to-date content, pictures in Wikipedia now. This is something most of you have not seen, and this is the National Livelihood Repository that's going to be launched by the Prime Minister on Sunday, so day after tomorrow. And again, this is a form of social networking because we have over 200 partner organizations using this tool to contribute content. So they have developed content for agriculture, different types of agricultural practices, seed preservation techniques, pesticides. A lot of indigenous knowledge is actually coming into this. So these 200 plus partner organizations, both from the government and from non-government institutions, they're actually contributing content to this. Again, a social networking phenomenon that's happening that may not be akin to Facebook or Twitter, but again, I would say that this is social networking happening in the country towards generating content that improves livelihood. I mean, we have cases where this content was used by farmers, fishermen, and they derived a lot of benefits. Not only knowledge benefit, but also financial benefits. So it's very important for our country. Voice against social injustice. There is a partnership between the government and ATN News, and you've seen this site. This was launched probably about a month ago, called Nagorik Control. So citizens' voice against social injustice. So I mean, this is the front page of the site, and again, apologies to the non-Bangla speakers. So this talks about: are you happy with the government's power management, electricity management? And the answer is obviously no. Then you write about your experience. So again, I mean, this is, I mean, we have seen sites in other countries like fixmystreet.com in UK and the US. So basically, this we think will be a tool for citizens, young and old alike, not only the young, who will be able to talk about social injustice, talk about deficiencies, limitations in service delivery by the government and by the NGOs, and that can actually come into public front. And this is a tool for citizen journalism. So we have seen journalism by journalists, and I don't know how many of you are from journalism background here, but we want concerned citizens to be journalists as well. They may not be able to produce investigative reports, but they can actually trigger the notification of some injustice happening somewhere, and then some more investigation can be done by professional journalists. So there is selected reports, selected news, because this is a month of our Bangla language. The first news here talks about how the young are not interested in reading anymore. So because we have a big book fair going on as well, most of you know. And there's a selected blog post. So there's blog posting happening and different kinds of reports coming in as well. Now a little bit of a different kind of social networking. I'd like to bring your attention to this as well. This is one example of using the computer and the mobile phone and creating networking within farmers. So about 200,000 farmers in one area of the country now daily get SMS messages to actually bring their sugarcane produce to the mills. And they network amongst themselves. That networking does not happen using technology, but the notification actually goes up. So again, it's a trigger mechanism for networking amongst the farmers. And also this had the side effect of getting farmer groups together as a pressure group against the government in some cases. This is an operation for the last year and a half. Another kind is the Bangladesh or the Bangla open source movement. And this is again very, very important. I've known several people here through the internet. I mean, I like Mac here, Belayat, and maybe the two of you also met through the internet, I don't know. And they are part of the open source community. And we have a very strong open source community which is actually developing tools in Bangla for general use. And we have seen that the community is almost 20,000 strong now. It's the community is probably about 10 years old now. I mean, the open source movement started about 10 years ago in a seed fashion. Now it's actually grown from strength to strength. And about 1,000 software developers, most of them in Bangladesh, but there are probably a few diaspora contributing members as well to Bangla open source community. And that's again another kind of social networking that happens to produce socially useful content, to produce content that's contributing to the knowledge society, the knowledge economy that Dan talked about yesterday. Citizens database, we have one of the largest citizens database in the world now. That's again done using open source tools and using Unicode Bangla. The full operating system in Linux is in Bangla now. OpenOffice as an open source tool is in Bangla. So again, if you want to see demonstration of that, I'm sure Mac has a copy somewhere in his laptop.
Can you talk a little bit more about citizens database, because I don't understand that.
Sure. Again, this is very specific to Bangladesh. The Bangla language used in computers has been very proprietary for the last 20 years. There have been different types of input systems, and there have been different types of fonts, all proprietary, and they did not follow the Unicode standards. So it's only very recently, in the last 3 years, I would say, Unicode has been seen as the standard to follow. And a citizens database was created in 2008 for the election. So 85 million voters are registered in the citizens database in Unicode Bangla. And that's the first large-scale use of Unicode Bangla in the country. And now since then, the last 2.5 years, the government has embraced it. It's a slow uptake within the government because they're very used to the 10 million people or 1 million people within the government. They actually are used to using the different proprietary systems. So it's a slow transition, but I think we're seeing good progress there. So it's very important as we develop systems that will be used by common citizens of the country, because they don't know English. They will have to use Bangla, both on the computer and also on the mobile phones.
Isn't Bangla part of the Unicode UTF-8?
Yes, Bangla is.
Okay.
Bangla is, but we were not using it. It was only last year that we became a formal member of the Unicode consortium.
Yeah.
And the standards we've been just using for the last 3 years or so, and that's been growing so far. Software outsourcing freelancers, another type of social networking that happens. And I was very amazed, and this information I just received after coming here, that Amader Shomoy, the leading daily of Bangladesh, just reported that there are 30,000 freelancers. They actually receive work by doing social networking from freelancing sites from outside the country. So that's a source of significant revenue generation. What was the revenue that was reported in 70 lakhs? 70 lakh dollars?
No, dollars, yes.
$70 lakh. So that's $7 million per year. So $7 million. Where we're talking about the entire industry generating, and again, industry outside of the freelancers generating about 30 million. So it's a very, very significant number. So close to 20-25%. So again, all down to social networks, because they get on the internet, they find their friends, they basically find buyers who want small things done, probably $500, $2,000, and they actually get that done.